Welcome back to the Scholastic Sit Down for the real episode one. Now that we are just in the week of SHL hockey and hockey around the state of Illinois, as we welcome you back here. Dylan Ward is to the side of me, our usual duo. My name is Luke Jordan. Dylan, how was the week? You got to see some of the preseason invitational that we're going to talk more into detail about in the next coming minutes, but just tell me how nice it was to be back in the environment of hockey for a weekend.
Yeah, Luke, you took the words right out of my mouth. Just being there and seeing the familiar teams and jerseys and colors and coaches alike, it was so much fun to watch some great games, honestly. And it just to be back in the rink in general, that alone was just such a good feeling, and it was a lot of fun, and it made me really excited for the season.
We thank you guys for all the support on episode number 0. Expected to only incline from there, as this week we'll get to recap hockey that's actually happened this season. We'll preview the upcoming SHL weekend as well. Starting Friday, we've got games going on in the best league in Illinois. And from then on, we will have a question of the week and trivia question as well. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. The preseason invitational. We'll start with the quarterfinalists and work from there. As we mentioned, there were 6 groups, and there was only 8 teams that moved on. So going through each quarterfinal game, we'll cherry pick the ones that we thought were interesting after the matter. But it all started with Lake Forest and Glenbrook South. Titans won that one 4-1 with 4 unique goal scorers. And their foes, Glenbrook North, were also able to propel that time by 4 goals. They beat the Warriors 5-1 with 4 unique goal scorers of Benjamin Ovanian with 2 of his own. And on the other side of things, Deerfield and New Trier met, where New Trier Green cruised through 5-0 win. And how about Plainfield? Convincing quarterfinal win to close out that Saturday night. They beat the Brother Rice Crusaders by a final of 6-1 with 4 goals in the first. So, well, I said it for you, Dylan. Cherry pick what you want from these 4.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, Luke, we're looking at four kind of lopsided games here. I think I was watching pretty much all of these, and New Trier Green Deerfield was a lot closer than the score shows until it wasn't. It wasn't until about halfway through the third period New Trier got their third goal. It was 2-0 for a long time. Deerfield had a couple good looks on the power play, but just couldn't get one past the New Trier goaltender in that one. Glenbrook North looked good against Warriors. I thought GBN, it's so interesting coming into the season. I can't tell where they're going to finish in the SHL standings. This weekend, this entire weekend, they've been so hit or miss, either dominant or not. Glenbrook South, just from what I can see from them, pretty much all of their skaters have potential to get goals or assists. They have a very deep team this year, and very fast team as well. So they're able to get the 4-1 victory. And Plainfield, again, we cover SHL, so I don't know too much about these players necessarily, but they're looking really good in terms of a combined candidate coming out of this preseason invite.
Moving on to the semifinals, that would be the next morning, Sunday, September 7th. Plainfield made it to the semis, but Glenbrook South got a hold of them. That game was actually tied 2-2, and then from then on, the Titans just broke away with it. 5 goals in the middle stanza itself for an 8-3 victory as GBS went to the final. And they had a familiar face to meet. Glenbrook North and New Trier met in the semifinal. 2 teams that GBS both played in the preseason invitational last year, whether the semifinals or championship. And New Trier moved on 5-2 with 2 goals in the second, 2 in the third, and Isaac Solomon with 2 of his own. Dylan, I I was convinced Plainfield was going to hold on for a moment. Just with the early goings of that game, they were getting outplayed, but they kept it even. What really broke things apart there for Glenbrook South in that one?
Well, for Glenbrook South, like you said, it was 2-2 in that second period. Then they scored 2 goals early in the second period, including Blake Hoffer on his birthday yesterday. with about 10 minutes left in the third. That made it 4-2. And then the Titans ended up scoring 3 goals in a matter of 50 seconds late in the second period. And that's
That's
what
just crazy.
really broke it open. Um, Interestingly enough, 8 goals scored, similar to what you were saying about that Lake Forest game, 8 different skaters with a goal in this one. So, like I said, a deep team this year. And then as for New Trier Green and Glenbrook North, I caught the end of that one over at the NHL rink at Seven Bridges. And from what I saw, I walked in when it was 4-1, so before the last couple of goals. But from what I saw, the teams were playing each other decently evenly. The shots on goal, the final shots on goal in the game were 32-19 in favor of New Trier Green. But at the end of the day, the Trevians, it's just hard to beat them no matter what competition it is, whether it's SHL final, state final, or a preseason game, you know?
Yeah, and what I think is most sensational, you talk about the 8 different skaters that got on the board for Glenbrook South. You look at the individual standings, points, goals. Blake Hoffer, although most of these games were real spread out, he cruised through the leaderboard. He had 15 points in 6 games. That's the most in the tournament. And he was still tied for the most goals in the preseason invitational with Jack Herstrit of New Trier Green. I think that goes to show you how much Blake Hoffer, who, by the way, I share a birthday with, so happy birthday to you, Blake. But
And happy
he,
late birthday to you, Luke. That was
oh,
yesterday
you didn't have to
on
say that,
Sunday.
but
Yep.
yeah, thank you. But it just goes to show you how good he makes his teammates look and how he can bring everybody up around him. And that's convincing. And that's what you need in the late goings of a year. Guys to step up and guys to mentor and help them. And you can see that looming from Glenbrook South already. On the other end, not much to say about that New Trier game. They kind of just rolled through, Dylan.
Yeah, they definitely did. And, first, I do want to take a second to talk about Glenbrook North. Obviously they have a new head coach this year, Jeff Marks, but he's not new to the program. He's been their longtime second team coach, whether that's varsity two or JV on the years that they didn't have varsity two. And he steps up and is the head coach of GBN. And, you gotta give him props for taking his team to the Final Four in a tournament where you're talking about 24 teams began. And, I thought GBN, while they had a couple of blips in the road to the semifinal, um, they have showed that they're a decent team and definitely not one to take lightly here in the SHL. Yes, they lost SHL star Michael Raderman, the goaltender, but they still have a lot of key pieces in their lineup.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And honestly, Glenbrook North was close to making this a tie game at one point when they scored a shorthanded goal late in the third period. But from then on, Jack Wolleben scored a power play goal, and New Trier buried away with Isaac Solomon's empty netter. I think the craziest stat about this game, and we'll carry on to the final after this, but the fact that it was only 1-0 after the first and New Trier outshot GBN 15-2, that shows the potential of a first period team this year for sure. Most dominant in that stanza at least. Bringing us over to the preseason invitational championship. It's a familiar matchup. New Trier and Glenbrook South. New Trier on the brink of going back to back to back to back to back. And that they did, outbeating Glenbrook South 3-1. Not a lot of shots in this game. Shots on goal 22-11. And Dylan, you told me while we were off the air, Glenbrook South only 1 shot in that second period. You'd have to say New Trier's defense really just locked things up.
Yeah, they did. And that one shot in the second period was a goal for Luke Fagan, his fourth of the tournament. But Keegan Rowan and Jenner Layden scored in the first and second period respectively. And it was a close game on the scoreboard, but New Trier dominated this one. The final shots, like you said, 22-11. And there was some great defensive moments and great saves by Thomas Preston on the Glenbrook South side. But after New Trier got off and running, that was it. And Glenbrook South, after averaging over 6 goals per game in the tournament leading up to this point, only one against New Trier Green. So that just goes to show you the defensive ability of the Trevians moving forward. And Luke, I also got to point out, once we had this championship matchup locked in, I initially thought about our conversation that we had in episode 0. I picked Glenbrook South to win this tournament. You picked New Trier Green. So, out of all the 24 teams, we each picked a finalist, and that game decided who would win that little, mini prediction we made. And Luke, I got to give that one to you.
Well, thank you. I think overall state championship and O'Grady tournament predictions in the past, we have not been too far off. Like it's not like it's super predictable, but I don't know, something about it. I think we're helping the guys. I don't know. But that would do it on this tournament. And I mean, lastly, I didn't know much about Maxwell Reed before this tournament for New Trier, and he comes into this tournament 3 games. He's got a goals allowed average of 1 in the end, only allowing 3 all tournament. And how about that save percentage? He stopped 51 out of 54 in total for a 944. And New Trier, after moving on from both of their goalies last year, it seems that they're in quite a fine space.
Yeah, and you make an interesting point about those statistics because New Trier Green's such a great defensive team. They're not allowing many shots per game, so sometimes goals allowed average on a really good team doesn't tell the full story, but that save percentage does. So, depending on how many shots, if you're, 900, maybe 920, 930, that's a really good save percentage as a goaltender.
So without further ado, now we stop looking through the rear view and now look through the windshield to the SHL season starting this Friday. Opening weekend of the season has now arrived upon us, Dylan. Super excited for these 4 games as we will look down the line, preview each game. We'll see how it goes for all these teams opening up their SHL seasons. As Friday, September 12th is the official opening game. Call it SHL opening day. Just one tilt between Stevenson and York. It's a good old classic Friday night at Addison Dillon, but under a new coach, a new head coach, a new assistant coach. It's going to be a very new season for the York Dukes.
Yes, it will. And at the preseason invite, I saw Evan Polakidis and Ben Stein behind that York bench. And, talking about it in episode 0 was one thing, but seeing it was another thing. It felt so weird. Matt Boeing, of course, last year's York coach, stepping down, but staying within the organization as hockey director. And this is going to be a really good SHL opening night matchup. I think these two teams have sort of formed a bit of a rivalry over the years in SHL play. They had a rivalry series game just a couple of years ago, actually. And, just the preseason invite, it was great to get back to the rink and see some hockey, but it's always a little more fun when there's SHL points on the line. And yes, 8 out of the 10 teams are going to make the playoffs, but every point matters in this league because you're playing the top teams in the state of Illinois every night. This is going to be a great opening game between two teams that were in the preseason invite, and they didn't play each other, of course, but maybe met up with each other. Some players knew each other, saw each other again, and Friday night in Addison, what a way to start the season.
Yeah, classic tradition that continues on as on Stevenson's end, they return plenty of names, including one of their 2 goalies from last year. Austin Morris has moved on. Asher Ali will stay and probably be their anchor throughout most of the season. We don't know depth charts, but when you're returning, you got a pretty good odd of playing up high. As Stevenson will turn over into Saturday as they're starting their season early. They play the first and second games of the season. This one, a good old rivalry on a Saturday night, 6:40 p.m. at Mount Prospect Ice Arena as they take on the St. Viator Lions, one of the state favorites on the road. It's a tough weekend to open up for the Pats for sure.
Yeah, no kidding, Luke. And yeah, York Friday night, St. Viator Saturday night, both on the road. I think it's great that this rivalry is an opening game. I mean, it's not opening game for Stevenson, but it is for St. Viator. It's an underrated rivalry in the Scholastic Hockey League. I would say it's third to Loyola New Trier and GBS GBN in the SHL. And again, this is your state championship prediction pick, Luke. The St. Viator Lions. I'm really excited to see how they've filled out their roster. I know they have plenty of guys returning, and look, they were a good team last year with those young guys, and they're only going to be bigger, stronger, and better this year. So, yeah, St. Viator, Stevenson, great rivalry to open up the season.
I mean, look down this line. Got Tommy Speck, Giovanni DePinto, Pepe LaBoy, Ryan Loftus, Adam Popiel, Nicholas Koenig, Colton Newhouse. I mean, I could go on and on. Connor Sibigtroff. So many names that are returning, and how can we not forget Albert Prizwara as well? I mean, this is going to be a scary team. And Scott Serralo talked to Ross Foreman, one of the writers for the SHL. There's an article about Loyola out there, and when asked about his state team to watch for, he said it's St. Viator, and it's primarily because of returning your staff, returning all those players. They they're going to be threatening for sure. And also looking at the game sheet now, this is nothing confirmed, but it does say that Tim Benz is the head coach right now, and he could be returning as the true boss man to the bench alongside John Sclafini. You've got a lot of veteran experience on the bench. St. Viator is built for a good season, without a doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You know, Luke, you just reading off those names, it looks like I'm not going to have to memorize too many new players when
No,
I
not
go
at
into
all. It
that
makes
St.
our job
Viator games
easy.
this year. That's incredible.
St. Viator will carry on just like Stevenson did from Friday to Saturday, except it's Saturday to Sunday. Viator opens up in the early evening on the road against Lake Forest, 5:15 p.m. at the Alumni Memorial Field House, home of the Lake Forest Scouts, as well as the Lake Forest College men's and women's NCAA hockey teams, as it's a beautiful facility up north. And Lake Forest, I don't I did not get to see them in the preseason invitational tournament, and not to put you on the spot, Dylan, but what stuck out about them to you in that game where Glenbrook South played them in the invitational?
Well, I saw them twice. I saw them in that game, and then I also saw them play Glenbard earlier that day, actually. And you know, they seem it's a similar style of team that they had last year. I think that they have a couple improvements in, in playmaking and, I feel like they got way more shots. If you look at their shot totals in all of the preseason invite games, I remember they were one of the lowest in the SHL in terms of shots per game. So they're finding chances in this preseason invitational, and that's going to be key for them because when they are getting chances, they're a very, very good team in the SHL. And if they can continue carry that over from the preseason invite to the SHL regular season, look out for them because they might finish top half of the standings.
Only 4 games in the month of September for them, playing just about one every week. They have St. Ignatius September 21st, Stevenson on the road September 27th, and then they close out the month with New Trier Green at home. And on the other end for St. Viator, they controlled the season series last year against Lake Forest. We'll see how they fare there. As we look on the final game of this week, that's just a tad bit later than the Lake Forest St. Viator game. Start time is listed at 5:30 p.m. and this one a rematch of many big games last year. One to note for sure, the O'Grady Cup final. And this game was also one matchup away from being the state semifinal before St. Viator moved on and ended up playing the Trevians. But it is St. Ignatius on the road against New Trier Green. Obviously, always going to be an exciting one between these two.
Yeah, what an opening matchup for both of these sides in regular season play. We didn't get to see St. Ignatius at the preseason invite. The same thing with St. Viator. We didn't see them, but we do know St. Ignatius is 2-0 in CCHL play as they opened up with a home and home with the Notre Dame Ice Dons. So, again, no Fenwick this year, but St. Ignatius is here and they will be participating in both leagues at the same time. As for New Trier, I don't think much changes in terms of their preparation for this game. They had a really impressive showing at the preseason invite. And I think if you go into this with the exact same mindset, the exact same plan as you had in that tournament, there shouldn't be much to worry about. And St. Ignatius, I'm interested to see what they can bring to the table against a New Trier team. I mean, listen, starting the SHL season against New Trier Green, that's a tough task, but it wipes out one of your three meetings against them for the rest of the year.
Yeah, sure does. And some key names missing on this Wolfpack roster. Just looking down the line, of course, you can't forget about number 24, Austin Haynes from last year, along with some others. And Jackson Steinloff, Brody Netsky's a senior. He moved on. It's going to be tough, but St. Ignatius, a fairly deep program. We'll see how they fare off. And obviously, Dylan, we have to continue with our tradition, and that comes down to what is your game of the week? I'll let you start first.
Well, Luke, I do appreciate you letting me start first because I'm going to take what I believe to be the obvious one, the one we just discussed, Nutria Green and St. Ignatius. I think that that's going to be a really entertaining game. Um, and yeah, again, Nutria Green, probably the favorite to win that one if I had to make a guess, but we haven't seen St. Ignatius yet, so I can't necessarily count them out. And that's going to be a really exciting game to see what St. Ignatius can do after not really getting that sample in the preseason invite.
For me, I'm on the fence. I like Stevenson York. I like Stevenson St. Viator, but I feel like I know St. Viator is just on paper simply better than Stevenson, but you don't realize that these rivalry games, if one team's looked at as an underdog, it fires you up. And I think Stevenson can put on a fight come Saturday night. I know it's not in their barn, but it is a game that they can definitely compete in. And it's been a while since we've seen an STV Cup matchup, so. I'm gonna go with Stevenson St. Viator as my game of the week. Of course, starting next week we'll have a couple more games to choose from, but only four on the docket this week. As now we will look into our question of the week and trivia coming up next. We will resume our usual segment of outside the SHL starting next week. Not a whole lot has happened outside of the SHL, so not too much to explain. But moving on into our question of the week. We've seen, you've listened now, the preseason invitational champions once again, New Trier Green. And the question simply is, if you already had New Trier, are you still going with them as state champions? If you didn't, have you changed your mind? Is New Trier Trevian now your state champion favorite? And it's a tough question to answer for us too, because you can't really break around a yes or no question, or yes or no answer, should I say, but you can dive deep and you can really wonder. And I know we're far out, but gotta start with
Well,
the tough questions, right?
as long as you throw in an and why, I think we can get some
Yes,
good
and
answers down
why?
in the comment section.
Just like good old school.
Yeah, so for me, no, my state championship as of now prediction stays Loyola Gold. And for one reason and one reason only, we have not seen Loyola play yet. And New Trier, they might dominate this tournament, but if Loyola doesn't even have a chance to compete with them to win it, then how am I supposed to change my prediction yet? I mean, I know Loyola is in a tournament right now, and just from seeing some final scores on Instagram, it looks like they're winning games and they're making a run to win that. That probably actually ended yesterday, so I can even check on that while you answer your answer, Luke, to see if they won that tournament. But for me, no, I'm sticking with Loyola as of now. Again, this is a very early prediction, so we'll see what happens, but if I had someone else to win, like if I had Glenbrook South or GBN or someone else that New Trier beat, then maybe. But as of now, I'm sticking with Loyola.
Yeah, no, that is really well said. And my state champion favorite also kind of plays with that as well. Same fighter. They were one of the three teams from the SHL to not participate. It was them, St. Ignatius, and Loyola. And really it's really well said because you haven't seen St. Viator play. You're going to see them play this weekend in SHL play. And obviously, you're talking of one of a handful of SHL games. You can't make a true evaluation yet. So, but I do feel like there's some people that might have been a little bit intimidated by the pattern. New Trier, when they win the preseason invitational, they go and win the state championship. We've seen it happen 3 years in a row now. And now people aren't one to believe in coincidence sometimes, but I'm gonna stick with St. Fider. I do think they really just have so many good returners on paper, and so does New Trier. I mean, we saw Jack Hurstrid absolutely dominate, but it's too early to tell yet. But if you guys think New Trier has escalated as your true favorite now, let us know down below. And if you haven't, also let us know down below. Just tell us why. We really want to dive deep and pick the brains of you viewers. As how did Loyola do?
They ended up losing in the championship game. It
Oh.
was here, let's see. I just had the name of the tournament. It was the Howie's Hometown Cup, Kalamazoo.
Mm.
So, yeah, lost in the final. They had wins over Western Michigan Varsity, Toledo, and Michigan Steel on their way to the championship game, but they lost. Also, Luke, you make a really good point. Let us know in the comments. It's the whole point of Question of the Week. I mean, listen, episode zero, our first episode back. I thought people would be excited to answer the question of the week. We got zero comments once again. So come on, people, right down there. It's easy. It takes maybe 30 seconds of your time, and we get to shout out your name on the next episode of the podcast. How cool would that be?
Yeah, no, I mean we read your questions 100%, so don't think we don't. That's for sure. As now the trivia question. This is where we really shout you out if you get it right, and we're starting off pretty easy, I will say, as this week's trivia question is how many returners does Loyola Academy Gold bring into this SHL season? Now, I'll give you guys a hint since we're starting off easy. It is somewhere on the SHL website. You got to dig, but that's all I'll tell you. You don't just click one thing and there it is. You got to at least get on the SHL website, do one or two things, and then you're there. But that will do it on the True episode number one. We will have our first guest coming next week. It is most likely going to be the New York head coach and SHL man, Mr. Evan Poulakidis, hopefully will be joining us. But for now, Dylan, any final words on episode number one?
No final words, Luke, but episode one, week one of SHL hockey, and that's kind of the reason that we made last week's episode episode zero so that they coincide with the week numbers of the SHL season. And not a lot of games this weekend as we discussed in the preview, but I'm just looking forward to next time we meet a week from today and we get to review some SHL hockey instead of preseason hockey. So it's September, it's that time of year, and I couldn't be more excited that we have an entire season waiting for us.
You heard him there. That's Dylan Ward. My name is Luke Jordan. We thank you so much for watching this episode. And you are seeing this Tuesday, but hopefully you're hearing this after the Chicago Bears win. Enjoy
That's
the
a good
rest of your
point, Luke. Should
week.
we make a quick Bears score prediction?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do
All
it.
right, let's
Oh,
do it.
you first.
All right, I'm not a big football guy. I don't follow it too closely. I am excited for the game tonight just because it's opening night at prime time. So I could be, I'm just pulling this out of thin air here, but I'm gonna go 24 to 24 to 12 Bears. I think they're gonna double them up.
I think that's not bad at all.
Let's
As
change that. 14. 24-14.
24-14.
Lock it
Okay.
in. Lock
All
it
right.
in.
I'm gonna go on my end. I'm gonna go. hmm, I'm gonna go 21-17. I do think it's gonna be a fairly low scoring contest. I do have the Bears winning, of course, because how could you not? I mean, a lot of experts are saying the Vikings are gonna win, but I'm not an expert myself. I don't think JJ McCarthy was that good at Michigan, and I apologize if I get proven wrong, but he was more of a system guy. He was throwing short passes, he was handing the ball off a lot, and I think Caleb Williams, he had some ups and downs through the preseason, but it's hard to evaluate how good somebody is in the preseason, of course. So hopefully Justin Jefferson is pretty locked up by Jalen Johnson and so on. And Ben Johnson, the head coach, new head coach of the Bears, probably going to be showing off his new offense. So that's my prediction. I don't know how it'll go, but I know what I'll be doing tonight. That's for sure.
Well, Luke, I'll tell you this, Caleb Williams is the only name that you just said that I know. So that pretty much just locks in. I'm going to get this score prediction right.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's for sure. So anyway, we thank you guys so much for watching. Go Bears.